But yo, my beats, they are hard.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian Fulford and AD Drew here. We're recording this on remote location after a long weekend, and that's why I know my voice. I can hear my voice through our headphones. My voice sounds horrible right now.
It's because you were doing all that screaming and hollering on the play-by-play, Brian.
Yeah.
That play-by-play, that GCAC Tournament. And, you know, this is a pleasure, Brian. This is one of the few times we actually get to do one of these things face-to-face.
Exactly. We do these so often in remote locations or via Skype or something. Now we're
going to call them our home studios.
Our home studios, right. And now here we are in a hotel room, hotel suite. After a good meal, you finally got some shrimp. I know you were itching and dying to get some shrimp since you've been in town.
Yes.
You know, you know what? Really, I've had such a long week. I really didn't have any crazy seafood demands. I know Roy. He was itching for a better po' boy than I guess than what you guys had the first night you were in town.
I think it was more of the adult beverage after the food was what was itching us so bad.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know what that means, but I'll just leave it at that, I guess.
You got to be 21 to get that beverage.
Okay. Anyway, like I said, I'm over my head, man.
Grown man sodas, we like to call.
Oh, I got you. Okay. So we just finished the GCAC men and women's tournament at Xavier University. A beautiful facility, the Convocation Center. I mean, I'm trying to think in my mind as I think about HBCU gyms and arenas, right? And just the ones I've kind of thought about. I'm a bit of a basketball stadium arena nerd. I will call myself, being from Indiana, a Midwest guy.
Preferably, I know basketball is going to be your top expertise. Being an Indiana person, because that's what Indiana is known for.
Yeah, but I just like there's no better feeling than the sight lines of seeing a crowd involved in a game and just the enthusiasm and the echo of the crowd. And you have when you go to games. I mean, let's be real, as fans. And we're not talking, we've both been coaches, and I'm sure for players it's different. But when you've just been a fan, it really is all about the memory and the experience of that place you go.
Right.
And so even with our HBCUs, the fact that you have pep bands, no matter how good or average they are, they still bring a little something that even, I know nowadays everybody's playing music over this PA system. And, my God, the music this weekend was
it was good, but it left a little something to be desired.
If you were 30 and younger, you probably loved it. Especially if you were 25 and younger, you were like, this is great.
But if you had somebody there who was 15 and younger, the person who was on the music selection should have played the PG version or the radio edit instead
Some of these songs, I don't know if they had radio edits, to be honest.
Well, somebody need to have their finger on the bleep button.
Yeah, and let's not get into the appropriateness of some songs that you play during a women's game. Here we are about to play a women's game, and then some of the songs that you play are just kind of like
saying it with the B's and H's and
yeah,
insinuate those, even though they didn't say them in the arena. But
And that's how I guess I keep saying there's little things like that nowadays, which I know I'm getting old because I hear those things and I'm making a big deal about them. I used to never make a big deal about that stuff
because we were singing it when we was back in school together.
Exactly, or I was just listening to the beat and the music. I wasn't really hearing the lyrics. Now I'm getting old and I'm thinking I don't have any kids, but I'm listening to the lyrics like, should we really be playing that before the girls they're not paying attention to that. All they hear is but anyway, like you said,
they singing it as much as the people in the stands are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it was a great crowd and enthusiasm, and I guess where I was going with all this is the sight lines and just the arena is a beautiful arena. What was the capacity of that?
Just under 4,000.
Just under 4,000. It's a stadium that's been around since.
It's like 20. I want to say 2012 was when this was arena. So it's not even 10 years old. The only stadium, or let me say arena, basketball arena,
which is what this is.
I could compare this to that I have been to personally. And I don't want to sound like a homer when I say this, would be the Lawson Center at Florida A&M University, which opened in 2010 or 2011. Yeah. So these open around the same time. The facility at Xavier is a little bit newer, but as far as the design, it's just a smaller version of the Lawson Center.
It's that bowl. It's that bowl.
Yes.
That everything, it's just like an NBA arena where there's no wall on one end, so it's not like there's some stadiums where you may have.
It's a basketball arena.
It's a basketball arena.
It's not a gym.
It's not a gym. Exactly.
And a lot of our HBCUs.
It's not four corners,
right.
Or it's not a square or a rectangle.
Right.
It's an actual arena.
Yeah, a lot of our HBCUs are playing in glorified high school gyms. That's
good.
No better way to put it.
Yeah.
The standard barrier used to be Morehouse when that facility was built for the '96 Olympics.
Right.
That used to be the standard barrier as far as HBCUs.
Right.
Chappie James Arena at Tuskegee University still is, as far as a basketball arena, is one of the better arenas.
That's a nice arena. I've been there one time before.
One of the largest capacity arenas, but it does have corners. Mm-hmm. Very good acoustics in Chappie James, but it does have corners. And the locker room facilities leave something to be desired. I can say that because I coached at that university.
Other schools that have
the Acadome at Alabama State is a pretty decent arena.
But see, I separate. I know you were going to go to Alabama State. I'd put that in a different category than those, maybe based on the structure. No, you wouldn't.
The Acadome is
it's one of the nicer ones.
It's one of the nice ones as far as the arena. Now, once you go into the concourse area of the Acadome, it needs a little something to be desired because it's a 25, 30-year-old facility. But for a 10-year and under facility, this is one of the best facilities that I've been. And I've been in a lot of basketball arenas, gyms.
Two other places that come to mind. I'm sorry to interrupt. I didn't want to. Two other places that come to mind and get your thoughts. Norfolk State has a nice
never been to that
arena. I've been to it when they first built it, and seeing it on TV is nice. Also, oh man, it was just on the tip of my tongue and I forgot it.
Give me a conference.
SWAC, Southern's arena, because it kind of reminds me. It's that arena style. Feel just like the Acadome. I don't even know the names of half of these stadiums, and I feel like shame on me, but it has that bowl look to it.
Yes,
and so
very modern. Great Wi-Fi accessibility, which is key nowadays. Great lighting, great acoustics. Great fan experience. That's the best. And probably the most important thing, and I'm thinking as a coach, fans are close enough where they can enjoy the game, but they're far enough away from the players on the bench where you have a little bit of room to breathe. They're not on you. You're not sitting in the first row of the bleachers like you are in some arenas. If you understand what I'm talking about,
there are a
Bryan.
few places we've seen that are like that.
Yes.
And that's the intimacy of a lot of these HBCU arenas. Hampton's got another nice arena that they play in. But anyway, we got into talking about arenas. Shout out to Xavier again and Xavier University.
Acted as host of
the GCAC men and women's tournament, which we had on Saturday. We had 4 semifinal games. Our best games were probably the first and last game. Philander Smith pushes a game into overtime against Rust, the number 2 seed. Rust had the conference player of the year, and I think her name Kamisha Walker.
Yes,
kind of disappeared in the fourth quarter. Really never got into the flow.
I don't know if she disappeared or she was taken out of the game.
No, she was on the floor.
She was on the floor, but
taken out by Philander Smith.
Yes, taken out of the game by Philander Smith.
I don't know. I going back and thinking of that game, I think a lot of times Philander Smith. Well, I think a lot of times Rust never ran the ball through her. I thought Rust and shout out to Carol McLeod who joined us over the weekend. I thought, and she pointed this out as well, I remember the broadcast, a lot of the offense was running away from her. And it was almost like whoever was guarding Walker, like they were scared to run it through Walker. And it was like, why? She's the player of the year. Run it through her. Why aren't we running it through her? But anyway, as Philander Smith won that game, and then at the end of the night, we had Xavier and Dillard. That lived up to the hype. And by that time, I'm not going to lie, I was tired. I was dog tired, gassed, very little energy. And I'm really thankful that game actually lived up to be what it was, because I don't know where I found the energy for that game, but it was there, and we ended up with a great contest. The game ended up going into it went down to the wire. Down to the wire in that contest. So and so that was Friday, and then it kind of
was Saturday.
Well, Saturday, yeah. I mean, the first game was Saturday. And then so it moves us into the championship day, where we had Philander Smith going up against Talladega, who had not lost all conference.
Let's take that one step further.
Yeah.
Philander Smith had only lost to the 2 teams that were ahead of them in the conference.
Sure.
They defeated Rust, who was the number 2 seed.
Philander Smith was,
and they had lost. They were swept by Rust in the regular season. Mm-hmm. They were also swept by Talladega in the regular season.
Now in the first round, they beat Tougaloo, the 6th seed. That game went to overtime.
And the game Saturday
went into overtime.
So 2 overtime games within the GCAC tournament.
And so here you are coming into this game against nationally ranked Talladega.
Philander actually did not care.
No.
It honestly, it looked like Talladega was a team without the legs who had played a tough game the day before and had played multiple overtime games the way they got off to a start in that game. Because if I remember correctly, Philander got out to like a 14-1 run or something like that to start the game before Talladega really got it going.
Yeah, I mean, you had a 20-point halftime lead. I mean, it was 36-16 at the half. Talladega was just
Talladega holds teams to 16 points in a quarter. For them to only score 16 points in a half really says something about Philander.
They just never really. I mean, when they shot the ball. I mean, it was probably one of the worst shooting nights that you will ever have as a team. It was probably the worst time to have it, but maybe that's a good thing for them because you got it out the way before you go into the tournament. Which I fully expect them. They should get into the NAIA tournament at large. But they shot 30-something more field goals than Philander Smith, and they made 8 less field goals. Now do the math on that. You shoot 30 more, but you make 8 less.
And I'm going off the top of my head. They shot the ball 40 plus times in the first half, and I know you're pulling up the stats right there, Brian, but they shot the ball 40 plus times in the first half.
Yeah. Oh, in the first half. I don't even have those first half stats.
But overall, they shot the ball twice as many times as
16 of 76 is what Talladega was from the field. Philander was 24-47.
76
21%.
shots.
Yeah, 21% to 51%. I mean, that's unreal. And Philander did not have a good free throw shooting day, which is probably the only thing they didn't do well, because they were 60% of the free throw line. And the one thing Talladega did was shoot a few free throws well, but
they didn't get to the line too often was the problem.
No, did not. I mean, 5 of 28 from the three-point line. The young lady, Terrell Dominic, was the MVP of the tournament. She lived up to the hype. She going up against Brigitte Moore, who was the Defensive Player of the Year, led the league in assists, led the league in steals, got 3 fouls in the first half, and actually she picked up her third. I remember it exactly. 7:23 in the second quarter is when she picked up her third foul.
And you and I had just had a debate over the air on whether you pull her.
Yes, and Carol too. You and Carol were on the same page with that.
Yes. I mean, you're down. They were down in the high teens at that point in time in the first half. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but you have to trust your senior to be smart enough to stay on the floor. And the third foul
was a bad foul.
It was a hustle foul. But what I like to say, you have to make business decisions when you're on the court.
You can't pick that foul up.
No.
And sometimes that's why coaches pull a kid off the floor. Now, call me crazy. I would have pulled her off the floor. Maybe you put her back in the final 3 minutes on an offensive dead ball possession where you can get some offense out of her. But you can't she had just picked the second foul up. You can't just let her go get the third one a minute or two later.
Now, me as coach, I may pull her for 30 seconds, a minute, give her that, how you call it, that stern talking. Hey, move your feet, don't reach, nothing stupid. All right, now you got to stay on the floor. I need you to make business decisions. I get back in the game and play ball and lead my team.
Yeah, you trust your players, definitely. I get it, and sometimes it comes to bite you. Over in the men's game, we had another nail biter. Xavier men.
How many lead changes do we have in that game?
Let me pull that up for you because
I know at halftime we had like 8 ties and 4 lead changes. I may have that backwards. It might have been 4 ties and 8 lead changes.
At the halftime we had 8 lead changes, 4 ties at the half. That part I do know at the half. For the game, we had 9 lead changes and 14 ties. So it may have been the other way around in the first half. 4 lead changes and 8 ties. That would seem a little more right. But the lead changed 9 times. Tougaloo, they were the 2 seed, the defending conference or the defending tournament champs.
And conference champs. They won regular season last year also.
Xavier was the 1 seed. They were on a 13-game home winning streak. I remember reading had not won the GCAC tournament since '96.
24 years.
Head coach Alfred Williams. He was
a player on a runner-up team. Mm-hmm. He was the assistant coach
on a couple of them,
on multiple runner-up teams,
and a head coach on at least one
runner-up team. So for him to finally get over the hump, feel good, and for you to get over the hump at home has to be extra special.
Tournament MVP was William Lloyd, who Saturday night had a 31-14 game against Dillard. 23 or 24 of those came in the second half, I believe.
Yeah, but let's not shortchange somebody who was on the other team. Shannon Sanford had, I believe, 14 points and 15 assists in that game on
Against
Saturday
Dillard?
night. Bryan.
Yeah, Shannon Sanford. Yeah, you're right. Wow, 11 points, 15 assists. Wow. And Malik Amos
in a losing effort.
Yeah, Malik Amos, he was lights out. 27 points, 10 of 19 from the field, 5 of 10 from the 3-point line. Another young man, Tyrell Alcorn, 18 points on 6 of 10 shooting, 6 of 9 from the field. I mean, that game, Dillard had that game, and then they just, I can't recall if it was free throws or it was just, well, actually, Dillard never got to the free throw line. They were 5 of 6 as a team at the free throw line, and then Xavier, 16 of 24 in that game on Saturday night. And like I said, we mentioned the 31 of 14 by Lloyd. Then he comes back the next night against Tougaloo. I'm telling you, and we never found this out, but I'm telling you, the biggest miss for Tougaloo, and I don't know if he's hurt, is DeMichael Stribling. We saw him last year. We saw him against EWC.
And he played in all 30 games prior to the tournament.
Yeah, so I don't know. I thought I saw him on the bench. We never did find out what his story was and why he did not play. But I think he was the notable miss, and I think he's a mismatch against a team like Xavier, who
has no size.
No, and we saw the young man from Tougaloo, Johnson. Hold on, I got the roster sheet right here. Justin Johnson. I mean, down the stretch, he got buckets whenever he wanted to in the post.
Well, that was for two reasons. Lloyd had 4 fouls, so Lloyd could not guard him like you normally would have. And he was just better than Lloyd's backup.
Yeah. The young man, Jerry Gibson. And,
yeah.
I mean, he did a good job.
Don't disrespect to Gibson. He played as hard as he could.
He did, and made a few big plays.
And he made some defensive plays, but when they had to go one-on-one, he was a little bit better.
Yeah, they didn't send help fast enough. I mean, it was like, send the double. Nope, because as soon as he got the ball, and I think when you look back at how that game ended, 13 seconds left, Tougaloo has the ball, down 2, I think at that point. They were down 2.
Still 2 because it came back and then they were down 3.
They rushed the ball down the floor, and Atwater, who honestly, Atwater was playing, probably would have been the MVP of the tournament had Tougaloo won, but he rushed the jump shot, I thought, instead of trying to get the ball into the post. Because in the post is where they had scored the last 2 to 3 times. But instead he comes down the floor, shoots a jump shot. It looked good. He had a good look. But still, it's a 15, 16-foot jump shot.
But that's what Tougaloo does.
Yeah, I get it. But, you got to go with what's working.
You do it, but you also have to stay with your true nature.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, look, I think there'll be a good tournament team. They'll go to the tournament.
Now, not to cut you off, you said who would have been the MVP if Tougaloo would have won that game?
I think Atwater would have been.
So why not have the ball in his hand down the stretch?
Well, he had it in his hands.
Okay,
and I'm not saying.
And he took a shot. It was a decent shot.
But decent shot. But was it the best shot at that moment?
I didn't say. But if you have your best player, your hottest player with the ball in their hand. Get it a decent look. As a coach, you're going to take that 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, but he wasn't the hot hand. Yeah, and you got to go with the hot hand.
So as coach, you got to make sure you tell him that in that huddle. If not, do what you do.
Yeah. So the GCAC now. When did the NAIA tournaments get? When did they announce their?
March 11th.
Okay.
March 11th, that will be on Facebook Live. I believe women are at 6 p.m. and that's going to be Central Time. 6 p.m. So that'll be 7 p.m. Eastern Time and 8 p.m. for the men.
Okay.
There's an hour time difference when those brackets will come out on Facebook Live.
And so we firmly expect now, and all those games are in Kansas City. We found that out.
Yes, I expect 2 GCAC women's teams to get in, probably 3. Philander has the automatic.
Yep.
Talladega will get an at-large.
Sure.
Question is, will Russ still get in? Because Russ was ranked nationally. Russ was in the top 25 in the nation. They take 32. The thing with Russ is going to be, will another low seed win their conference tournament and take an automatic bid away from a team who was already getting in?
Right.
On the men's side, you have Xavier in with the automatic. Daga will get in. Tougaloo will get in. Tougaloo was actually ranked higher than Xavier going into the final poll. Before Xavier defeated Tougaloo 2 times in a row, 2 times within the 6-day span, might I add. Question is, will Talladega get in? They are truly on the bubble as far as being a 3rd GCAC team in the NAIA tournament.
One other piece of sort of I don't know if we didn't mention this in the broadcast. It kind of came out in the interview in talking with the commissioner, Dr. Kiki Baker-Barnes. The GCAC tournament going back to Jacksonville next year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she mentioned that in the broadcast or in the interview that we did during halftime, I believe, of the women's semifinal. Yeah, the women's final, and it's going back to Jacksonville. I guess when we did the tournament last year in Jacksonville, we were under the impression that it was going to be there multiple years, but for whatever reasons, it ended up in New Orleans this year. So, funny, EWC and SUNO were the only 2 schools that did not have a team represented on Saturday. Some teams only had 1, some had 2. But the bad part is when you think about EWC losing those 2 games at home
in the opening
round by maybe, I think the women
lost by 5 points.
Yeah, the women lost by 2, the men lost by 3. That's it's like, wow, that's tough. And then SUNO, who pretty much ending their athletic programs, so next year,
at least for the next year or 2.
Right. So the conference as we know it, unless there's some new members coming in that we're not aware of today,
they'll be down to 7. And then pretty soon they'll be down to 6.
Okay. Yeah.
Edward Waters is going to the SIEC.
Eventually, probably in about 3 years.
2 to 3 years. Yeah. But they're the transition.
So it'll be interesting to see how a conference like the GCAC
looks to expand.
And I mean, obviously, there aren't very many HBCUs that you can expand to.
Two that come to mind.
Okay.
Fisk, a former member of the GCAC, who is a NAIA independent.
Are they independent?
Yeah, but they are a Division II independent NAIA. That would be one.
Offhand, do you know the difference? What separates D1 and D2 and NAIA?
I think it's just the number of sports that are offered and conference alignment.
Okay. Is Fisk a state school in Tennessee?
I believe not.
Okay.
Stillman.
Wasn't Stillman? Where was Stillman previously?
Stillman was in the SIAC.
Okay, that's what it was.
And I believe they are a D1 independent. Don't quote me on that. I would have to look that up. And both of those schools fit within the current footprint.
They do.
Of the GCAC, with Fisk being in Nashville, Tennessee, Stillman being in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. 2 other schools that they may possibly need to look at would be Allen in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah.
And Voorhees, but the only problem with Voorhees is a women's only school.
Yeah.
Which is in Denmark, South Carolina.
We
And
just
speaking
looked that
of Voorhees,
There's your transition. You did it for yourself. I wasn't going to transition it.
they will be going to the NAIAD 2 tournament, which will be held in Sioux Falls, Iowa. Yes, and that will begin. I believe that's going to begin on either March 10th or March 11th. 32 teams go to the Division II NAIA tournament. So congratulations to Voorhees for getting into the Division II tournament. And they went 20-13 on the season.
At the same time that we had our GCAC tournament going on, you had the SIAC tournament going on.
Don't remind me of that.
Sorry.
My alma mater on the women's side, we came in second. We lost to a very good Benedict team.
Very good. Very good. How about a great Benedict team? Do I need to do the math on what Benedict did this year?
Well, we should have got them.
15. They were at one point in the season, they had won 15 in a row.
Yes.
Now, because of the scheduling, they ended up having to play Fort Valley State literally almost on back-to-back nights. For some reason, like one game was home, and then they had to turn around and go and play Fort Valley. Well, on the pretty much second day of that back-to-back, they lose to Fort Valley 63-60.
And I think that may have been something to do with weather and rescheduling and having to get the games in and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of same thing that happened with the Tougaloo Xavier game because of weather and because the schedules were so clustered up. The only day they could get it in was on that Monday night before the tournament.
Yeah.
Same thing with Benedict.
Yeah, so they lose that game. It ends their 15-game winning streak at that point in the season. But then they turn around and they win 6 in a row, including the SIC championship, which was Saturday night or Saturday afternoon against Tuskegee, 85-72 for Benedict. And we were just looking at the women's bracket, and Benedict, they are a 6 seed taking on Tampa University. And that will be March 13th. It's a noon tip-off in the Walker Arena in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Delta State.
Is that what I do?
Yes.
Look at you. I don't know if either Tampa or Benedict has a traveling advantage. Because Benedict's in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, and Tampa's in Tampa.
Tampa's in yeah, so I don't know who's got the better.
The only thing that I'm going to say about that, thank God you're going in March instead of May. The mosquitoes won't be that bad.
Yeah. So Benedict with a 25-3 record. It's always interesting. That's a Division II bracket. We'll talk about the other teams here in a second.
Speaking, I'm going to make a transition and we'll come back to women. Speaking of Benedict, former Benedict men's head coach Fred Watson has led Miles men to 2 consecutive SIAC championships on the men's side as they defeated Albany State on Saturday also.
Yeah, 69-56. Miles had another, very similar to Benedict. They had a 13-game winning streak right after the start of the year. Then they lost by 3 points to Lemoyne Owens, and then turned around and finished up with probably a 4 or 5 game streak running right into the conference.
And Watson being a Benedict alum, and then Watson replaced a coach who I used to coach with at Tuskegee, Leon Douglas, 2 years ago. So congratulations, Coach Fred up there in Birmingham.
That Miles, I don't know, I got to look at the date on that, but who knows? The date hasn't come out just yet, but Miles will go to the tournament with a record of 24-4, and they're playing in their region. They're the 8 seed. They're taking on the 1 seed Florida Southern in their own backyard. Florida Southern plays in the Lakeland, Florida, in the George W. Jenkins Fieldhouse, where I just was this past week. Florida Southern 29-2,
and Florida Southern is going to be on alert. The year Tuskegee in 2014 went to the Elite Eight in Colorado Springs, Florida Southern was the number 1 seed. Tuskegee was the number 8 coming out of the SIAC. So Florida Southern is going to be on alert with facing the SIAC team in a 1-8 game on their own court.
Now, you talked about you're a little more familiar with the Division II format. You said that in that region, unlike what we see in Division I, there are 8 teams in that region.
The 4 18 pods.
And so,
which gives you 32 teams overall. The number 1 seed in each pod hosts the 3 rounds.
Right. So you've got the 4 games, the opening round games.
Yes.
Then the 2, the winners of those play. That's your your region semi.
Right.
And then your region.
I'm sorry, there are 64 teams in. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eight regions.
Yeah, 18 regions.
Right. So then your region finals lead to
the Elite Eight.
The Elite Eight.
Instead of a Final Four,
Elite Eight.
they take 8
at
to
a neutral
to
site.
the neutral site.
Yeah. Which, I like that. It's a different format. It's probably more so what high schools do.
Yes.
Than your NCAA.
And it's a lot more cost efficient for the Division II teams.
Right.
You're going to be in town probably a max of 4 to 5 days, and then you're going to fly or bus to the next site, and you're going to be there a week to 10 days later
and it seems to be a little region based. I mean, I'm looking where Miles is. You got a Florida team. You got Alabama Huntsville. I don't know where
it's the same. It's the same format as they use for football, as far as the conference alignments.
Okay.
Yes. Well, similar, not quite the same, but it's very similar to what they use in football.
Right.
You've got 3 conferences that go to a pod, another 3 conferences that go to another pod, and they do that 8 times.
Right. Just concluding with the SIAC tournament, they were held in Rock Hill, South Carolina.
Why? I'll ask it. Why?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, who's the nearest SIAC school?
Benedict, Payne. At least
they're not
both of them are at least 2.
Payne is not an SIAC school, are they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're at least 2.5 hours away.
Yeah,
and Rock Hill's outside of the Charlotte area.
And looking at the attendance,
what attendance?
It didn't look that great. Wake up our producer here who hanging out with us as we record this. Just I love just straight passed out snoring on us on the podcast. So we're just keeping it real. This is a informal sports wrap on location after a long weekend, so it's all good. We'd expect there to be some snoring. If it wasn't from you, it'd probably be from me a little bit later. Yeah, so Rock Hill, South Carolina.
I don't snore.
I don't know, man. I watched watching some of the highlights online of just the scene. It just, oh man. And I'm going to get into I guess the CIAA. I still haven't seen what the attendance numbers were for that.
And I guarantee you won't see what the attendance numbers are for the SIAC.
And I know it looked like they had a good crowd for the men's championship, obviously with Winston-Salem State and Fayetteville State playing in it. But I don't know about the rest of those games. I don't think they hit the numbers that maybe, previous years were hyped up to be. And, of course, this is the last year for the CIAA in Charlotte. They're going to Baltimore. But
guess who's coming to Charlotte next year?
The SIC?
No.
Oh.
Big South.
Oh, my goodness. Are you serious?
The Raiders of 2 of our HBCUs being Hampton and A&T.
Savages.
I think they're coming there for the next 2 to 3 years. I don't remember what the exact
So
contract
they're
was.
going to a more they're going to somewhere like Charlotte instead of playing, because this year they played at like Winthrop University, or they played somewhere. Whoever wanted to host schools
going to a neutral site.
Neutral site. Huh?
Yes, I want to say it's a 2 to 3. They're there for what I saw for as long as the CIAA contract is in Baltimore, which I think is a 3-year contract, if I remember right, 2 to 3 year contract.
How the SIC didn't jump on that is crazy.
Why would the SIC jump on that? Because, once again, even in Charlotte, which has a good HBCU fan base, you have no local team to draw from.
Well,
and you have to have, I've been around enough of these HBCU tournaments, you have to have a local team for a feel-good story. And I hate to say it, but you need that local team to get on the run to get you to the final day of the tournament in order for your tournament to make money.
But you can't always rely on that. And I think what you got to have, you probably have to have people who have seen some of these other teams. Like if they seen these games involving some of these other schools, and say maybe your team isn't the best team, but at least you've seen some of the other teams, you might be tempted to say, you know what, hey, these other schools, they play some good ball.
You've got to have a team within 2 hours of that tournament site that's good and that should be in the finals. Let's take when the SIC was in Birmingham. You always had a good Biles team, Tuskegee team. When Stillman was in the conference, you had good. Plus, you had the Atlanta teams who were 2 hours away, Clark and Morehouse.
Right.
That was a good draw. Same thing when the tournament was in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. You had that opportunity. Now, I was around when the tournament one year was played in Albany, Georgia.
Okay. Was it good? You
had a decent Albany State team.
Okay.
Can't remember how good Fort Valley was at that point in time. Mm-hmm. But you really only had 2 teams to draw from because Morehouse is 3.5 hours away. Clark is 3.5 hours away. Tuskegee is 3 hours away from Albany, Georgia. So in order for you to really make money off your tournament, you've got to have those teams that are within a short drive. So if your team gets on a run, you can plan on being there. Or if if you know your team should be there, hey, I'll be there Saturday and Sunday. I'm not gonna go to the open round game. That's why the CIAA tended to do so good in Charlotte, because you had so many North Carolina teams who were good. Well, if that team got on a run, fans could go and support them. Well, students could go and support them.
What about being somewhere where people want to go in case your team gets knocked out? I mean,
outside of going to like Orlando.
No. I'm thinking, okay, for the SIC footprint, I'm thinking obviously Atlanta, but I thought, what about somewhere like Savannah, Georgia? Now that Savannah State's in, even though Savannah State may not be a team that makes some noise, I mean, I don't know. Savannah place sounds like a nice place to go.
Sounds like a nice place to go, but
nobody's going there.
How easy is it for you to get to?
Well, if
you're at Kentucky State, how easy is it for you to get to Savannah?
If you're in Kentucky State, I don't know where you get
if you're a good.
Hey, in the winter.
Okay, let's take Biles. Let's take this Biles team this year. How easy is it for you from Biles to get to Savannah? 5 hours.
Okay.
4 to 5 hours.
Okay. So I mean, obviously, it sounds like what, Georgia, Atlanta, Middle Georgia seems to be the ideal location.
SIC.
Because you can't do Birmingham. We've already talked about when they're trying to do that weekend.
Birmingham logistically, as far as geographically, is good. Logistically, is bad.
It's a bad weekend because they're holding the high school state championships that same weekend.
Same city, same weekend.
Yeah, so you're not going to compete.
You can't compete. Birmingham or Atlanta for the SIAC.
But you know what? Let me stop you. That says something, because I've been to state championships in Florida, and they hold them in Lakeland. And let's just say The nearest to Lakeland, Florida, is Orlando or Tampa. Or Lakeland kind of sits in the middle
This is
between
in the
Tampa
middle
and
of the
Orlando. There would be nothing stopping a college tournament a college tournament wouldn't have to worry about Florida high school basketball tournament in Lakeland if it were in Orlando or in Tampa. There's no conflict. That says something about the state basketball tournament in Alabama, that it's good enough. And how many classifications are there?
7 classes.
So it must be good enough.
They call it the Final 48.
Yeah, it must be good enough that it can cause attendance issues for the SIC, which has, 12, 11 teams. And it's not like it's
13,
it's been around for over 100 years. So you've got history, and you've got hundreds of alumni, thousands even. That says something.
Well, since we're talking about it, the high school tournament is downtown. The SIAC tournament is at the at Fair Park Arena, which is 10 to 15 miles from downtown.
Northern.
Number one,
Birmingham, I guess.
which is it's pretty close to Miles campus. It's about 3-4 miles from Miles campus.
Okay.
But the high school tournament is downtown. The hotels are downtown. The high school tournament takes up all the hotels also.
Okay.
So the SIAC teams have, with that many teams coming in, have a little bit of trouble getting hotels. And the downtown arena is the better arena.
Okay.
Now, if they could get over to UAB's new arena, the Bartow Arena, baby.
Okay.
But they're playing at Fair Park Arena, which is a 60-year-old arena.
Yeah, it'll be. Do you know offhand how long SAC is scheduled to be in Rock Hill, South Carolina? Is it a year-to-year thing?
Long.
It is a 5-year deal.
And I believe Rock Hill has pretty much all of the SIAC championships outside of football.
Oh, okay.
They've got track, they've got baseball, they've got cross country, they've got softball.
And this is year 1?
Year 2, I believe. Year 1 of basketball, because I know baseball and this is year 1 of everything, because everything was in Albany last year.
Okay, well, look, I get what they did, and from that perspective, props to Rock Hill for making the commitment to sort of be the championship destination. Yeah, I mean, hey, great for you being the destination city for SIC championships. Maybe things will get better. Who knows? I don't know. Anyway, moving on. The CIAA obviously was the week before. You had Winston-Salem State beating Fayetteville State on they beat them 63-62 on a 3-point attempt at the free throw line, basically. Winston-Salem gets fouled. I think Cologne gets fouled, shooting a 3, goes to the line, knocks 3 free throws down. They win the tournament. Fayetteville State women defeated Bowie State 61-53. So Fayetteville State advanced. And so the NCAA brackets, let's start with the women. These brackets just came out tonight as we're recording this. In the same region, literally in the same region, you have Fayetteville State as an 8 seed taking on Indiana, Pennsylvania, who is the number 1 seed, and they're the host of the region. So they have over Indiana. PA has a record of 28-3. Fayetteville State 21-8. It's a 3-year deal. Oh, just a little correction. It's a 3-year deal on the Spring Hill. Rock Hill. I don't know. I may have said Spring Hill. Sorry.
Spring Hill's the school.
Yeah, Rock Hill, South Carolina. That's the SIC deal. And then in that same region, how about this matchup? and this has got to piss you off if you're the CIAA.
Can we say piss off on the podcast?
I just did.
Okay.
Bowie State gets matched up as a 4 seed against Virginia Union as the 5 seed in the same doggone region.
Let's look at the positive out of that.
For who?
We know we're going to have one HBCU advance to the second round.
Okay. There's your
I'll let you go ahead with all your negatives, but I had to pull that positive out.
I'll stop there. I'm just saying you got 3 CIAAs in the same region. I don't know if they could have gone anywhere else, or would you have preferred, who knows, I guess you are seeded what you are, and maybe, it makes me wonder.
Happened last year with the being in the SIAC.
If Bowie State won, Fayetteville State's probably not in.
Correct.
That's probably how that happened. Obviously, if Fayetteville State won the tournament and finished as an 8 seed, they beat Bowie State, and Bowie State ends up as the higher seed in the tournament.
Right. They may have bumped up 1 seed to a 3.
Yeah. For Virginia Union, of course, was the...
And Virginia Union had a heck of a run this season. They just...
Now, the curious thing about... Now, did I say did Virginia State get in? Let's see. Hold on. I'm looking at the bracket. Did Virginia State get in? Because Virginia State actually won the Northern Division over Virginia Union.
And Bowie then.
Well, the Northern Division. Yeah, and over Bowie. So it went down like this. Am I looking at? Nope, I'm not looking at the right one. Doggone it. Sorry about that. I was looking at the men. Yeah, so that's what messed me up here. All right, so yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm sorry. Virginia Union. Yeah, 23-4. I'm sorry. So you know who ends up losing out? Lincoln, PA. That's because remember it was a three-team. Lincoln, PA finished 23-6. They all finished in a 3-way tie in the Northern Division. Well, excuse me. Virginia Union finished 13-12 in conference. Bowie and Lincoln finished 12-3. And I think Bowie advanced further. I know Lincoln, PA somehow they got knocked out of the CIAA sooner. So that's how that's who got sort of shortchanged a little bit in this whole process. Or maybe had Bowie won, it might have increased Lincoln's opportunity to get in as that 8 seed instead of Fayetteville State.
Look, when it's time to win or go home, you can't leave it in somebody else's hands.
It's true. I got you. Right. So AD's giving us the positive. We've got an opportunity to see an HBCU. Well, there will be an HBCU women's team in the second round. The question is, will it be Bowie State or Virginia Union?
And where those
you know what? Hey, hey, look, Benedict. Let's not discount Benedict. I mean, hell, they've had a great season. They certainly are capable of beating Tampa.
And where are those games will be held at?
The Bowie State, Virginia will be in the same location as the Fayetteville. They'll be in Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, of course, the Benedict-Tampa contest, that game is on the women's side. That will be in the Cleveland, Tennessee, Walker Arena. Okay. For the men, let's go over to the men's bracket in Division II. Winston-Salem is an 8 seed, and the Indiana, PA women are 1 seed. Well, so are the men. And
so they've got they're breaking in the dough there. They got the double headers.
Yeah, how are you doing that? How are you hosting? Jeez, you're hosting the men and the women.
I've been a part of a tournament like that before.
Jeez.
They get all of the they get the 4 women's games out of the way like on Thursday, the 4 men's games out of the way on Friday, and then they'll play the two doubleheaders on Saturdays and the 2 championship games on Sunday.
Also in that same region, Virginia State gets in as a 7 seed. They will take on West Liberty, who is the 2 seed. That game will be at West Liberty in West Virginia. No dates have been announced on these yet. And that is it. 3 HBCUs in the Division II. You had Miles, we mentioned earlier. Winston-Salem, both of those teams are 8 seeds. Virginia State is a 7 seed. And that is it. I'm just scrolling through, trying to see if I see anybody else here. I don't think so. No. So there you go. Everybody else is practically done for their season. I don't know if there's any other at-large tournaments or anything like that.
No, I don't think there's an NAIA for Division II.
Yeah. All right, so that's Division II. Division I. We've got 2 more conferences coming up this upcoming week, as we have the SWAC and the MEAC tournament. We've got those brackets upcoming. Real quick, let me, you know what, we got, we're talking about it today. One other HBCU played in a conference championship today, and that's Hampton. Hampton University is part of the Big South. I believe Hampton took on Winthrop.
And I don't think, not to be saying that was a little biased, but there was no way Hampton was going to win that game.
Why is that?
If we just watched it down the stretch, it was just kind of tough for Hampton down the stretch.
I will say, the night before, in the semifinal game against Radke, now Radke was the 1 seed, Hampton is the 5 seed. And Hampton, so that would have been Hampton's 4th game in the tournament. Because of being a 5 seed, they were just outside of the top 4, who I think got a bye. So I noticed how can I say this? I'm not trying to be politically correct, but I'm just trying to, if you watch that game, there was a point where Hampton was up maybe 20 on Radke. And what was noticeable to me through my Black College Sports Network eyeglasses and pro HBCU vision wear, the broadcast was slanted, I thought, towards Radke. Now, they were the home team, but every crowd shot was centered on someone from Radke. Every reaction shot was centered on a cheerleader from Radke. I saw very little pictures of the Hampton band who was there, the Hampton cheerleaders who were there.
They didn't want to hear all that racket.
Fans,
you know good doggone well, Brian. They did not want to hear all that racket.
Okay, so now you're saying that, but I didn't hear Hampton's band play at all. And I probably watched the last 7 minutes of that game. I didn't hear Hampton's band play at all. Now, they probably had their DJ or whatever they had. But yeah, I just thought that was very odd, and Hampton had to, I don't know. You talk about stories, and again, producers tell the story on television and sort of control what we get to see. And I'm just telling you now, if that is what is happening to Hampton and the Big South, yeah, good luck, North Carolina A&T.
No. Good luck to anybody else who's thinking of making that move to a PWI conference.
Well, look, I would have loved to have seen Hampton win and get the automatic bid, but I'm just pointing out how visuals tell stories. And on television, that's all you're trying to do, right? You're trying to tell stories on TV. And the images, all the images were faces that don't look like you and me. They don't look like people who go to Hampton. So we didn't see much of the championship game because we were doing our game, getting ready. But I don't know. Just thought I'd mention that.
And I would take that like one step further, Brian. I was talking to one of the coaches who was here at the GCAC tournament, and he's a grad assistant on one of the teams that played at the GCAC tournament, and he played basketball at a PWI, but he's working on a master's degree at one of our HBCUs now. And he clearly stated, I wish I would have went to an HBCU for undergrad.
Yeah.
Just the difference in the culture. The HBCU teachers care. I don't feel like I'm just out here because I knew I was not good enough to make it to the next level. And when I was not that guy, those people who were that guy at his school got that special treatment.
Oh yeah.
The rest of the people that looked like him,
oh yeah,
they were just a number.
For the small percentage, it's a great thing. But for a lot of the other middle of the road guys, yeah, you're missing out on something.
Yes.
Period. I mean, that clear as day. Final score, back to that game, Hampton lost to Winthrop 76-68. Hampton had a 33-28 halftime lead, got outscored 48-35 in the second half. How many foul shots? Let's see. Go to the stats box score. I don't know if I can. I don't think I have that quickly available. Yeah, that's. I'll kind of keep browsing through and see if I can pull up anything from that. But it's a good effort, good showing by Hampton, and they almost pulled it off. They almost found their way in, so that's a good showing by them. Okay, getting into the MEAC here. Let's kind of move forward.
And both the MEAC and the SWAC tournaments open up tomorrow, Brian.
Yep, opening up early this week. Let's start in the MEAC with the women's bracket. I think the elite team that everybody is on, everybody has to watch out for, without a doubt, is Bethune-Cookman. Bethune-Cookman, they're going into the tournament as the 1 seed. I was looking for the women's bracket here. Got it. They this doesn't have their total record.
The Eastern Shore opens up against Coppin State in your 8-9 game.
Yeah.
Howard versus SC State in your 7-10 game. Those games will open up on Tuesday, Brian.
Yeah, all these games are being played at the Norfolk Scope Arena in Norfolk, VA.
Yeah. Finishing off the women's bracket Wednesday, Bethune will play the winner of game 1. Norfolk will play the winner of game 2.
The big question, AD, that I guess I'll and this same thing will apply. I don't know if it'll apply as much to the men, but for the women, here's Bethune, who I believe has a record that sits somewhere like 22-5. They are ranked. Bethune, 22-5. They've won 15 games in a row. Now, that's your best team. As we're watching we caught a little bit of the highlights here of Winthrop versus. Now, that's a home game for Winthrop. That's a home game. Now, I have a feeling though, if that game got moved to Winthrop because they were the high seed, because Hampton had just beat the number 1 seed Radke on Friday. That'll be interesting to see if that goes to a neutral site, what happens in the future. But back to the MEAC. Bethune's your best team. Norfolk State and Morgan State finished 12-4 in the conference. If either one of those two teams were to upset and beat Bethune, or if Bethune were to stumble, your best team won't get an automatic bid to the tournament. Now, I don't know if Bethune has enough street cred to get an automatic bid. I don't know if the MEAC women or the MEAC conference on the women's side has enough street cred. But I've talked about this before. Why do the MEAC and the SWAC pimp themselves out to ESPN and allow this conference tournament sham determine who goes to the tournament? Their regular season champion should be the team that gets the automatic bid.
Well, we know they don't make anybody off the tournament.
No, but why? I don't understand it. You run this. This has happened many times before. Your best team gets knocked out in the semifinal, or worse, in the final. Hell, they might get knocked out in the quarterfinal. We've seen it happen. And some team with a 500 or less record ends up going to the tournament. And what do you have? You lost on the chance of somebody competing. You may lose out on the chance on somebody not being in. Because obviously, the way it's slated right now in the men's division on the SWAC and MEAC, both of those teams are going to end up playing in the first four on that Tuesday or Wednesday night.
In Dayton,
Ohio.
And they'll be sitting at home on Thursday.
Yeah, you want to know why Hampton left? That's why Hampton left. That's why A&T left, partly because of that, to avoid having to be that conference.
Team number 68.
Yeah. But for the women, I hope that doesn't happen to Bethune-Cookman because that's a good squad. And, it's possible that they could get screwed and end up in the NIT. That'd be horrible given the year they've had. The MEAC tournament, the number 1 seed, North Carolina Central, they won the tournament outright, or the regular season outright, over North Carolina A&T, who's the 2 seed. Norfolk State is the 3. Bethune is the 4. The top 4 teams should make it to the semifinals. You potentially will have a matchup between Central versus Bethune, A&T versus Norfolk State. On a neutral site, anything can happen. North Carolina Central has won the MEAC tournament the last 3 years in a row. But
is that really a neutral site, Brian?
Well, if Norfolk State, not for Norfolk State.
Okay.
It's in their backyard. So they're probably sitting on house money. The fact that they get a chance to play North Carolina A&T, they can beat them. Yeah, so, if you were going to, I don't know what the odds are for winning the tournament, but if I were going to wager on it, I would be looking at, the favorite will probably be North Carolina Central, but I'd be looking at the winner of the North Carolina A&T Norfolk State to come out and win that. That's just my 2 cents.
And noticeably, who's absent in the MEAC tournament, Brian?
Well, yeah, Florida A&M is absent this year, but hey, this was a great year for the basketball program. They went 10-6, 10 wins. I can't remember the last time FAMU won 10 games in the MEAC. They went unbeaten. They only played 8 home games all year. They were conference games. They won all 8 of them. Coach Robert McCullum has a better MEAC record than he does non-conference record. Obviously, he's actually about 5 or 6 games over 500 in the MEAC in his 3 years. And I think the program is right at a point where next year I can see people picking FAMU to win the tournament, win the regular season next year. Might be a top 3 or 4 seed next year. I really can see it next year. Just to lay that out there. Not that I'm a homer or anything.
Of course not.
What do you say?
Of course not.
Of course not. Moving over to the SWAC.
And the SWAC only takes the top 8. There's 10 teams in the SWAC, but they only take the top 8 to the basketball tournament.
Which is great. Great. I mean, don't take. If you're gonna do this, do this. Don't.
That's what the SIC needs to do.
Take their best 8 and not play everybody.
Not play everybody, because when you've got 12, 13, 22 teams,
you run the risk of somebody knocking off the team that's supposed to go get your money.
You run the risk of losing money in this game that really doesn't mean anything, that nobody's gonna be at anyway.
Yeah.
When you've got,
that's true,
in South Carolina, when you've got Central State and Central State on the west side playing Fort Valley on the east side in a first round game, nobody's gonna be there.
Yeah. For the SWAC on the women's side, number 1 seed is Jackson State. They are 16-2, I believe, in conference. At one point, they had won their first 12 or 13 games in conference, I think, to open the SWAC play. They're the team to beat. They're the 1 seed. Alabama State is the 8 seed. A&M is the 4, taking on Alcorn. Watch out for Texas Southern. They're the 2 seed. That will be interesting. What happens with Texas Southern there? They might be the only team that could challenge Jackson State. But as we've seen, when you play somebody 3 times, hell, anything crazy can happen. And then on the men's side,
and looks like Mississippi Valley and Grambling are staying home on the women's side.
Okay. And on the men's side, Prairie View A&M is the 1 seed, taking on Alabama A&M as the 8. Jackson State is the 4, taking on Alcorn State as the 5. Southern is the 2. I think that's a little surprising from the standpoint that midway through the season, I think Southern was like the 5 or 6 seed. Southern put a winning streak together at the end of the season and moved all the way up to the 2 seed, moving ahead of Texas Southern, who is the 3 seed. Southern taking on Alabama State. I think Texas Southern, who's the 3, taking on Grambling State, is the 6. That'll be an interesting first round matchup to pay attention to. Prairie View A&M, Texas Southern. That'll be. I don't know. I don't know who my. I don't know if you go with the 1 seeds all the way, but I noticed these are being played in Birmingham, Alabama. AD.
Bartow Arena, which is the new arena, which is where UAPB plays their home games at.
UAB, you mean?
Yeah, UAPB. Yes,
That's
UAB.
right.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
Reason I had UAPB on my mind is because they're one of the 2 teams on the men's side who is out, along with Mississippi Valley State.
All right. Any predictions there on that side of the bracket?
Whoever it is will be playing in Dayton. In the first 4.
First 4 playing in Dayton. Gotcha. All right. Any other basketball notes for us as it relates to?
We've covered SWAC. We've covered BAC. We've covered CIAA. We've covered SIAC.
Yeah.
We've covered GCAC. We've even hit a couple of independents out there. Nothing else basketball related as of right now. It's trying to get into the when it comes time for recruiting and see if we can get somebody into the league, then we'll talk about it again.
Yeah. I know like I said, the young man from Shaw Amir Henson was the big name that got drafted, or actually not. He didn't get drafted. He was given a free agent contract by the Knicks.
Right.
I don't know if there's anybody.
I'd be happy with getting somebody to the G League.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of basketball players. I tell you, man. It's interesting. It's interesting that another conversation for another day regarding basketball. There's so many opportunities for guys. I mean, and I guess I say this as a sort of a transition into this one last topic that I know we wanted to, or at least I wanted to talk about before we close up, and that's the combine. I know the HBCU combine is coming up at the end of the month, but opportunities for guys in basketball. I mean, let's just be realistic about the numbers. There are only so many opportunities. There are hundreds of schools, 300-something schools in the NCAA.
That's just Division One.
Thank you. I was just going to say that. That's Division One.
There are over 1,000 schools. When
So
you
now,
take all
yeah, exactly.
divisions.
Now you start talking about Division Two, Division Three, NAIAs. So I mean, we watch guys, and sometimes I think you just have to appreciate guys for what they are. Celebrate these moments when these guys are winning, when they win their championships or get an offensive player of the year. Like we were talking today about the young lady Brigene Moore for Talladega, and watching her play, I'm sitting there thinking, she's damn good. I mean, watching some of the plays that she made on Saturday defensively, and yeah, she didn't have a great championship game.
And it's not like she's playing inferior competition.
No, not at all. Can she get an opportunity? Will she get an opportunity to play, I don't know, the WNBA? Or how about just overseas, internationally? She's got skills.
No.
I mean, she should be able to. Look at what what's to separate her from the girls at South Carolina, UConn. I mean, really? Is there that much of separation?
Size, name, program.
She's 5'5", 5'6". You telling me there's not a 5'5", 5'6" guard doing anything at that level?
I mean, there are. But the opportunities for us, the marketing, you know as well as I do in this business, it's all about who you know, where you know, can you get your foot in the door. If we don't have people who are HBCU supporters and from HBCUs in front office positions to even look at these players and give these players these opportunities, those opportunities are not going to come. There are not enough HBCU people in management positions within these leagues, be it WNBA, overseas, etc., etc.
Yeah. And it's sort of fitting that you said it that way, because that's probably why this whole HBCU combine in football is even happening. The fact that the NFL has finally embraced the relationships from the HBCU. I mean, they've obviously partnered with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We saw it a couple years ago when they had HBCU legends be honored at the Super Bowl. Then we sort of have seen it with the creation of the Black College, let me make sure I say it right, the Black College Hall of Fame Classic, which is being held at Canton, Ohio, on the site of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Okay, we've seen that.
Now, I've got one question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think any of this is fallout, or fallout may not be the word, little sprinkling of things from all the Colin Kaepernick controversy from a few years ago? It's just amazing all of this stuff started coming around after Colin Kaepernick took his stand.
This is what I'm going to say. Have you seen Colin Kaepernick repping an HBCU jersey or school?
No.
Okay.
But maybe because of that, some people who were HBCU affiliated kind of be like, hey, now, what he did was wrong, but he got a point.
Who did was wrong?
I'm just saying that may have been what the argument was to the people with the money. I'm not taking. I'm not taking a side in it, but that may have been how they approached it. What he may have did was wrong, but
that would be
he may have a point.
If you're right, that's the craziest parallel I've ever could imagine. And you know what? When I thought you were going down that road, I was telling myself, hell no, hell no, hell no. I'm not going to say it's not possible. Anything's possible. Somebody might have thought that.
Why do you think they hired Jay-Z?
But that doesn't relate to this. They didn't hire Jay-Z.
No, it doesn't relate to this.
No,
but it's all about public image.
But look, who's the guy that is out front repping and talking about this combine event?
Deion.
Right. Thank you. It's Deion. Now, what's Deion's affiliation with HBCUs?
He spent more time at FAMU campus than he did at Florida State campus. That's his affiliation with HBCU.
Okay, maybe so.
And you weren't in Tallahassee at that point in time, but Roy and I were in Tallahassee at that point in time.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, but it is interesting seeing Deion Sanders be the one on video repping and talking about the HBCU combine, not a guy like
Shannon Sharp,
Doug Williams, Jerry Rice.
Shannon Sharp.
Well, I was giving you that, Shannon Sharp. Yeah, guys who actually went to HBCUs. Who? Well, he's a younger guy. It probably had to be somebody, I'm just saying a legend. I mean, somebody who's Hall of Fame status. You know,
Defensive Rookie of the Year is an HBCU.
Who?
Defensive Rookie of the Year was an HBCU.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm somebody of known status. I mean, I'm just saying somebody. Exactly, somebody who's got media, street cred. You know, Doug Williams, MVP, Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying?
Doug Williams is an
former
executive
coach.
He's an executive with the Washington football team. I won't call him by the nickname, but the Washington football team right now.
Yeah, I just find it interesting that it's Deion representing sort of the NFL or the recognition that, hey, there are guys who are in this combine. And you know what? He said it in his most recent video. If you haven't seen, go to Deion's Instagram and look at the video. Because initially people were like, well, why did they create this combine for HBCU guys? You know, and he said in this video, he said, look, we just talked about the number of schools in just Division I. There are all these schools and only one HBCU guy, I believe it was the offensive tackle from South Carolina State, got an invite. He was one of 300 guys got invited to the NFL Combine among all positions now. So there's a lot of guys who are going to get drafted that didn't go to the Combine. So let's not be like, you know, hey, why didn't I get an opportunity or why didn't he get an opportunity? They're just, this is based on whatever metrics they use.
And all this is the pro days that everybody does. It's just a pro day in one spot for HBCU alone.
It's basically saying, hey, there's another segment of players. Let's give them a combine opportunity. There's 52. Now, do the math. Take all of the...
You said that how many players are going to the combine?
So there are how many HBCUs that play football?
51.
51. So you have 52 players.
So one per school.
Theoretically.
On average.
Theoretically. Compared to 300 guys out of
125
schools.
D1 schools.
Okay.
D1 schools.
Well, no, you got to say
no. 64.
No, you said it. It's more than that, really.
Well, it's 125 D1 schools that play football.
You got to count FCS too.
FCS and FBS are about 125.
It's 200 something. There's 130 in one level, 130 something, 120 something in the other. There's like 250.
Okay.
So anyway, it's about 1 for 1 in each segment. Almost. It's about 1 for 1. However many schools, there's that many guys that got invited. And we're not saying it's 1 per school. We're just saying the number of schools versus the number of players.
Yes.
Right? So this is a good thing. 52 guys. There's only 51, and not every school got a guy that's going to this thing.
And I'm going to tell you what's going to be the benefit of this HBCU combine. probably more than NFL invites and free agent contracts in the NFL. When you have new leagues like the XFL,
Yep.
when you have the CFL,
Yep.
Unfortunately we lost the Arena League, but
There's a couple other indoor leagues that are out there
but
popping.
those are going to be players that are going to get picked up by those leagues.
They're playing over in Europe. You'd be surprised. There are professional football leagues that are playing over in Europe as well.
Yes.
So it's
and they need to fill rosters.
It's exactly, that's what it is. They need to fill rosters. They're opening doors. So at the end of Eon's video, he mentions that he's the first one that mentioned there's 52 guys, right? And then if you hung around at the end of the video, a list pops up. Now, a lot of people didn't see this. A lot of people, I don't think they really paid attention to the end of this list, because I feel like I was one of the few people, because I saw some people make comments, and he was like, oh, I can't wait to see the list. And one guy who I follow a lot, we talk back and forth on Twitter, I was like, hey, I think Deion dropped the list on the end of the video. So he kind of scrolls back and looks at the end of the video in the last 20 seconds, and then pops up sort of this Excel sheet list. It's like 2 different frames. And sure enough, it's in alphabetical order by last name. And sure enough, the spreadsheet goes to 52. Now, so we don't know if this is the official list, because the NFL hasn't, quote unquote, released the official 52. But these are some of the names that come up on it. And again, you can go to Deion Sanders' most recent Instagram message on the HBCU's combine invite list, or the HBCU combine, and then go to the last 15 seconds and you'll see this list. And I'll just read some names that come to mind. I won't read all 52. Just names that come to mind, names that we've talked about during the year. Kyle Anthony of Howard, wide receiver. Manasseh Bailey, Morgan State, wide receiver. Elijah Bell, North Carolina A&T, wide receiver. Jordan Bentley, Alabama A&M running back. DeMontrez Burrows, South Carolina State, I believe he's a wide receiver. I'm just kind of going through names here. Nigel Chavis, the linebacker from Norfolk State. Robert Cummings, defensive back from Benedict. Langston has a guy on here, Craig Evans. I don't know, Roy, does that name sound familiar? DeAndre Francois, quarterback from Hampton. Going through the names here. Sterling Hammond from Virginia Union. Jodeci Harris, offensive lineman from Southern. Names that just ring a bell as I'm seeing. I think there's a name or two that might even be missing on here. Rico Kennedy, Morgan State. I believe he's a linebacker. Ian McBurrow, forgot, defensive player from Morgan State. Joe McWilliams, defensive back, Grambling. Jalen Morton, quarterback, Prairie View A&M. Solomon Muhammad, linebacker, Alcorn State. Darrell Nash, St. Aug linebacker. He follows a big follow of ours on Twitter. He likes to tweet us whenever he's doing big stuff. So shout out to Darrell Nash. Tennessee State, Stephen Newbold, wide receiver. Of course, Chris Rowland, wide receiver, Tennessee State. Taylor Porter, running back, UAPB. Marcus Pettiford, offensive lineman, like multiple offensive linemen of the year, North Carolina A&T. Jimmy Robinson, our special teams, our BCSN special teams player of the year from Bethune-Cookman. Darius Royster, MEAC defensive player of the year, North Carolina Central. Darius Skinner, Winston-Salem. Our quarterback, Ryan Stanley from FAMU. DeWanya Tucker, running back, Prairie View A&M. Deshaun Waller, running back, Alcorn State. Marcus Williams, wide receiver, Florida A&M. Those are just some of the names that I've come across that I recall during the course of the year talking about. I don't see a guy like Terrera Saffold. I don't see a guy like Tobias Taylor, and I only mentioned him because I saw tweets from them saying, "Hey, like, they're like, hey, what do you have to do to get an invite?" And I'm like,
Now, I wonder if these guys are training just like the D1 players train for the combine, and I hope that they are.
Who? Like Sappho,
The,
Taylor,
these guys on
these
this
guys?
HBCU.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
Yes.
I'm sure they are, because these guys haven't. They're still going to have their pro day.
Yes.
That whenever their schools have their pro day, I'm sure they are preparing for that. If not, they should be.
Right. But the problem with some of the pro days is you can have a pro day and nobody shows up.
Well, yeah.
The NFL is committed to showing up
Right.
to this
Yeah.
HBCU combine. They'll
Right.
send at least a scout
Right.
or two to this combine.
Yeah, I got to make sure to publish this sometime in the next 24 hours and put this out here. This will be interesting. I would anticipate the NFL dropping the full list by maybe Tuesday. And I'm, look, if we weren't busy this weekend, I would have dropped this out over Saturday, but it's been a busy 3-4 days for me, for us.
Speaking of busy over the weekend, before I get into how your weekend started, make sure you go to my Twitter page and check out the interview that I did with Tuskegee University head baseball coach Reginald Hollins about their upcoming renovation project and grand reopening of Washington Field on the campus of Tuskegee University, the renovated baseball stadium.
Right.
And it's definitely refreshing to hear how he used the spirit of Booker T to motivate him to basically get this field done. And if anybody knows anything about how Booker T built Tuskegee University, you will understand that reference that I'm talking about.
Exactly. That's good. You can go to mybcsn.net/sportswrap and check that podcast out.
And there's also an article under the news section on BCSN.net also.
Yeah, definitely.
And how did you start your weekend off, Bryan? Before we get out of here.
Started off with watching the high school where I coach at win a state championship. The school is the school's 8th championship, but in particular, this team, these young men, finished the season 29-2. They had won 20 games in a row. The last time they lost was to St. Benedict's of New Jersey in a holiday tournament in North Carolina. That was the last time they lost. That was December 30th. So
they are undefeated in the calendar year 2020.
Calendar year, have not lost in 2020. An amazing group of guys. Very humble. And I watched them in the 2 days, the semifinal and the championship game. They were prepared. Mentally, they were prepared. They were focused, laser focused, wasn't nervous. They'd been there before, the year before.
And what happened the year before?
The year before, 6 of the guys who were on the team last year, in the fourth quarter of the state championship game, down 15, ended up tying the game up, going to overtime, and unfortunately lost in overtime on a backdoor. I don't know if it's a backdoor cut so much as a baseline drive that finished with a dunk. And, that's how it finished, with a dunk. 1-2 seconds ran off the clock. That was it. It ended up on Sports Center as a top 10 play. That's how their season ended the year before, as runner-ups. And all year, I've been watching this process of those guys plus a few new guys and the coaching, just everything to drive it home to these guys that we're not going to finish like that again. We're going to be a better team. And they were a deep team. We had some guys that didn't make it all the way through for one reason or another, but the guys who stuck it out, stuck together, and family is sort of the motto. But they really, a lot of teams use that word family. But one thing you got to remember when you use the word family, sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes
some of our families are dysfunctional.
There's some dysfunction in family, but in the end, there's still love. And watching them play for each other, to bring that title home. I'm humbled just to even be around. I've coached nearly 20 years on different levels, from elementary to middle school all the way up to high school varsity, and to be a part of this with all the kids that I've coached and all the teams that I've had an opportunity to be with, that whether as an assistant or the head guy, it was an amazing journey to see the process. And let me just say, it's not easy. If it were easy, everybody would do it. Great is hard. Being great is hard. And so all these student athletes that we watch out here on the field, and I thought of that as I watched Xavier and watched Philander Smith win today. It's hard being great. I'm sure there were some bumps and there were some ugly moments during the season, some losses. Hell, we saw Xavier when they lost to EWC. Remember that? They took EWC for granted. It's not easy. It's hard being great. But when you get to the top, it's sweet. And I don't take any personal joy out of it, but just being a part of it is enough for me. I'm a background guy anyway, so I just enjoyed being around, seeing them happy, seeing them helping those kids through the school year, trying to help them realize that you guys are a part of something special. You don't see it now because, like most kids, they only see what's right here. But I kept trying to tell them, you guys are a part of something special. Just stay the course.
And with that being said, Bryan, let's put a bow on this present.
Yes, sir. That's going to do it.
Tie it up with ribbon and ship it off.
Yeah. Good job, AD. It's a pleasure getting away a chance to do this. We'll do some more podcasts later on in the year. Even I know we'll do some solo interviews with different people. We'll get together, hopefully do some stuff. Maybe even start doing some spring football kind of things, and maybe even some conversations with some spring sports. There's a lot of spring sports going on.
Speaking of spring sports, stay tuned. We'll have the grand rededication ceremony and opening day at Tuskegee University. That will be coming up on March 21st, live on the BCSN. We'll kick off about noon on that. I guess kickoff is probably not the word. We'll take batting practice at about noon on that day, and then opening pitch will be around, I believe, at 2:30 on that day.
Yeah. I'm hoping I get a chance to be a part of that. I don't know. Some things have recently come up. I don't know if I'll be able to, but I'm hoping that I get a chance to do that with you guys and see what happens. So, all right, that's going to do it for this podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for staying in there with us. For AD Drew, I'm Bryan Fulford. You've been listening to the BCSN SportsWrap. Make sure to stay tuned with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at MyBCSN1. Also, you can check us out on our personal pages. You can find Drew at BCSN Drew. You can find me at DRB365. Did I plug the Facebook page?
By BCSN and the number 1.
There it is. That's it. That's a wrap.
Go back and watch the GCAC tournament by bcsn.net/GCAC 2020.
Well said, sir. Thank you for listening. Good night. God bless. Peace out.
Holla.
But my beats, they are hard.